intrepid. Meaning, brave in the face of danger. Examples: scaling a live volcano prior to its eruption, the explorer was praised for his intrepid attitude. His explorations put him and his less intrepid companions in danger, but his concern was always for his instruments. Last year, for the first time, we sent one intrepid traveler, Jada Yuan, to all 52 destinations on our places to go list. Run over. Meaning, to hit or drive over someone or something with a vehicle, typically a car. Examples: Anderson then ran over Faram while fleeing police, according to the district attorney's office. The car ahead of us nearly ran over that family on the sidewalk. I think I ran over a plastic bottle. Achilles heel. Meaning, a weakness or vulnerable point, shortcoming, imperfection, flaw, defect. Examples: 15 years ago, he warned, privacy is the Achilles heel of internet travel planning. The Achilles heel of the case for nuclear power remains the issue of the disposal of waste. Malaysia's Achilles heel is the high level of foreign ownership of its government bonds. Pandora's box. Meaning, a process that once begun generates many complicated problems. Examples: trying to fix the bug opened a Pandora's box of other issues with the computer. Giving timescale promotions to the college teachers would open Pandora's box, encouraging other provincial cadre employee to demand the same. We've been getting hundreds of messages from listeners from around the country who have been affected by it. The Midas touch. Meaning, the ability to make money out of anything that you undertake. Examples: a smart accessory is all you need to give your home the Midas touch. The couch had the Midas touch as he led his undefeated team through a perfect season. And creating a golden egg from Beckham's Miami venture might take some doing, even for a man who possesses the Midas touch. A Trojan horse. Meaning, something that initially seems innocuous but is ultimately malicious. Examples: that personable new hire turned out to be a Trojan horse. She stole our intellectual property and sold it to the competitor. This small reduction in the basic tax rate was merely a Trojan horse for the far more drastic cutting of the top rate from 70 to 28%. Insular. Meaning, separated and narrow-minded, tight-knit, closed off. Examples: it will focus its charges on insular acts like sharing passwords or hacking. In many ways the US is an insular society, and people there are less likely to study foreign languages than those who live in other parts of the world. The sword of Damocles. Meaning, a constant and imminent peril, danger, or trouble. Examples: since her diagnosis, it is as if a sword of Damocles is hanging over our family. Individuals implanted with it live under a sword of Damocles. They risk electrocution and possible death if they leave the sprint fidelis alone. Cooking while striving to maintain the Michelin rating was like working under the sword of Damocles. Pay off. Meaning, 1. To repay a debt or bill in full. 2. To yield profits or benefits. 3. To bribe. Examples: I should have enough in my account to pay the phone bill off this month. We just finished paying off the car, and you want to start looking at a newer model? Wow, those private lessons have really paid off. Your Spanish sounds totally fluent. If this venture doesn't pay off, we'll be forced to declare bankruptcy. Despite the clear evidence, the criminal was still acquitted. He must have paid off the jury. We paid off the committee members, so our application should go through without a hitch. Leave no stone unturned. Meaning, to make every possible effort, use every possible source or resource, to search in all possible places. Examples: in the difficult weeks ahead, we'll leave no stone unturned in our search for a peaceful solution to the crisis. The chief promised that no stone would be left unturned in the hunt for the killer. My goal is to leave no stone unturned in our effort to dramatically increase sales and, of course, maintain adequate margins and profitability. Fiddle while Rome burns. Meaning, to occupy oneself with unimportant matters and neglect important ones during a crisis. Examples: the Australian community understands the seriousness of the situation. It is the federal government that has been fiddling while Rome burns. With the world's population growing fast and millions getting hungrier every day, the leaders of the rich nations just seem to be fiddling while Rome burns. The account was falling through, but he was more worried about missing his golf game. Talk about fiddling while Rome burns. Give off. Meaning, to emit, discharge, or radiate something. Examples, the heater is giving off a strange smell these days. She really gives off an angry vibe, so I thought she disliked me for the longest time. While metabolizing, or turning the nutrients into energy, the bacteria give off gaseous waste that make you go toot. Petrified. Meaning, very frightened, especially when you cannot move or decide what to do. Examples, in the Harry Potter series, Ron Weasley is petrified of spiders. A colleague brought her baby into the office and she hid in the loo because she was so petrified of holding it. I was absolutely petrified. I couldn't move, I was frozen. Run/come across. Meaning, meet or find by chance, find or see accidentally. Examples, they ask that people running across pay them money. But there are other, perfectly innocent ways spouses run across each other's stuff. While I am there, I run across a book called Offline which promises to help me avoid the potentially disastrous side effects of digital pollution. Ambivalent about. Meaning, feeling two different things about someone or something at the same time. Examples, he's ambivalent about quitting his job to start his own business, he wants his freedom, but there are risks. He's very ambivalent about seeking justice for what he said was obviously a war crime. I was ambivalent about our tryst and feeling fragile about where it might lead. They, hand, writing on the wall. Meaning, the very apparent signs that something bad will happen in the future. Examples, the president refuses to see the handwriting on the wall, equals that he will soon be defeated. You need to resign now. The writing on the wall says the company is going to fold, and there's no reason you need to go down with it. The handwriting on the wall bodes poorly for many aquatic species, but there is hope that we can make some changes to save some of them. Halcyon days. Meaning, a tranquil period of happiness, especially in the past. Examples, those were the halcyon days, before our country was at war. I doubt whether the wool industry will ever see those halcyon days again. I had the sense of peace and lightness that I associated with the halcyon days at Lahore. Deride. Meaning, to laugh at mockingly, scorn. Examples, the native speaker often derided the other teacher's accent. To deride this series as uneven would falsely imply that it shows the least interest in steadiness. Mr. Kane frequently derides Democrats in web videos and on social media. Pyrrhic victory meaning, a victory that is won by incurring terrible losses. Examples, she won the court case, but it was a Pyrrhic victory because she had to pay so much in legal fees. Winning a trade war by destroying both imports and exports would be a Pyrrhic victory. Ultimately, the tax proposal failed, becoming a Pyrrhic victory for health advocates and a new talking point for the tobacco company. Insatiable. Meaning, incapable of being satisfied. Examples, can worldwide caviar stocks support this insatiable demand? When we finally realize that we are in this together, that is when we will move away from our insatiable appetite for more. The human costs of the country's insatiable ambitions would be a worthy subject. Demure. Meaning, quiet, modest, reserved. Examples, the nuns tried everything to turn me into a demure and obedient little girl who would grow up to do needlepoint, but it didn't work. Though everyone else at the party was dancing and going crazy, she remained demure. Clothing trends moved toward edgy, casual looks, away from Mr. Wu's ladylike styles. Deferential. Meaning, showing respect for another's authority. Examples, Donata is always excessively deferential to any kind of authority figure. Many state courts are deferential to their legislatures. I'm a 27-year-old woman from a culture that is hugely deferential to parental opinion. Big Brother. Meaning, a person or organization exercising total control over people's lives. Examples, Big Brother will be watching you from this week when spy cameras start to operate in Essex. Having Gigi alongside me is nothing but beneficial, said Ariela of the competitor he now describes as a Big Brother. Any comprehensive peace deal with Kim must deeply involve China, the political and economic Big Brother of the North. Wanton. Meaning, undisciplined, lewd, lustful. Examples: Joanna's wanton demeanor often made the frat guys next door very excited. Their behavior was extreme, malicious, wanton, and outrageous, the complaint says. Jail records show he's held on murder, arson, wanton endangerment, and public intoxication charges. Jekyll and Hyde. Meaning, someone with two personalities, one good and one evil. Examples: Thomas claimed that his wife started behaving like Jekyll and Hyde and would immediately snap for no apparent reason. He said that Chief Leonard was known as Jekyll and Hyde in the department. Prosecutors described Matthews as a Jekyll and Hyde character, forcing a sad look on her face when police and media were around. Push the right buttons. Meaning, to do the things that are needed to produce a desired effect or result. Examples: it is hard to know if you are pressing the right buttons because one reader's fantasy is another reader's yawn. Our challenge is to push the right buttons and focus on areas where we can add value. The coach knows how to push all the right buttons to get his players ready for the game. At the cutting edge. Meaning, at the forefront of technological developments or advancements. Examples: our routers have been amazingly stable, while running protocols that are at the cutting edge of internet development. Lower speeds reduce friction heat at the cutting edge, and therefore reduce overall wear. The company has always prided itself on being on the cutting edge of computer technology. Hot off the press. Meaning, newly circulating bit of news or a gossip. Freshly printed or just released. Examples: did you hear that Mara dumped Jim? It's hot off the press. Hey, it's hot off the presses Greg got the promotion over Paul. Here is a copy of the new Perry Hodder novel. It's hot off the press. Vociferous. Meaning, loud, boisterous, vehement, outspoken, vocal, forthright, frank, candid. Examples: I'm tired of his vociferous whining, so I'm breaking up with him. Russia and Belarus are allies with close political, economic, and military ties, but they regularly engage in vociferous trade arguments. Metzger insisted on buying these machines despite vociferous opposition from election integrity advocates and independent computer science experts. Gas guzzler. Meaning, a large car with very high petrol consumption. Examples: in Oregon, people who drive bigger gas guzzlers actually pay less tax through the program. Remember when we all sold our gas guzzlers for fuel-efficient models? Ironically, bike shares would need more gas guzzlers on the road to get more funding. Oil the wheels. Meaning, to facilitate, expedite, ease, or aid something or some process. Examples: the clients have been reluctant to sign on for another year, so we're offering a cash incentive to help oil the wheels. Hopefully, this shift in public opinion will help oil the wheels of immigration reform. Credit cards greased the wheels of the consumer boom by allowing us to buy what we want, when we want. Figure out. Meaning, to investigate or think something through in order to understand it. Examples: researchers are ramping up efforts to figure out why some vaccines protect for mere weeks but others work for life. The war wasn't going to last forever, we foolishly thought, and someday we needed to figure out what it all meant. They filled 5 poster boards with 100 sticky notes to help figure out the logistics of the show order and cues. Innate. Meaning, inborn, native, inherent. Examples: she was motivated by an innate desire to rid the world of pain and oppression. His incredible athletic talent is innate, he never trains, lifts weights, or practices. Often, confidence requires believing that a talent is learnable rather than innate. Crowd puller. Meaning, noun, an event, person, or display that attracts a large audience. Examples: the camels, one of whom had a month-old baby, were a crowd puller as they ambled towards a bucket of nuts at the end of the arena with their jockeys hanging on. For that reason, I am very proud that we have created a worldwide crowd puller with this SUV model from the main plant in Ingolstadt. An annual plowing contest aims to be a real crowd puller when it gets underway today. Inhibit. Meaning, to prevent, restrain, stop. Examples: this approach to work does not inhibit his personal happiness or stability. Moreover, the experiment employed a chemical that inhibited overall brain activity. A sense of loyalty seems to inhibit him from discussing that divergence too openly. Waiting in the wings. Meaning, not yet active or important, but are ready or likely to be so soon, to be ready and available to help or replace someone. Examples: the team has several talented young players waiting in the wings. My assistant is waiting in the wings to take my job once I retire. We'll be waiting in the wings, so just signal us if you need anything during your speech. Vex meaning, to confuse or annoy. Examples: part of what vexes Republicans is Trump's unpredictability. His tendency to embrace uphill battles sometimes vexed his more pragmatic colleagues. He would set me free from the people and circumstances that vexed me. Spitting image. Meaning, a perfect likeness or counterpart. Examples: like the speakers, the touchpad is a spitting image of the original blade. Following claims the man was the spitting image of David Schwimmer. He just wants to remold her into the spitting image of his fantasy woman. Fair weather friend. Meaning, a person whose friendship cannot be relied on in times of difficulty. Examples: Bill stayed for lunch but he wouldn't help me with the yard work. He's just a fair weather friend. A fair weather friend isn't much help in an emergency. A fair weather friend might try to corner you into loaning them something precious. Rub shoulders with. Meaning, associate or come into contact with another person. Examples: these conferences always have a meet and greet portion so you get a chance to rub shoulders with the heads of the tech industry. During the 3-day conference, business students listen to and rub shoulders with veteran venture capitalists and successful young entrepreneurs. It is pricey, but the new owners could rub shoulders with celebs such as Robin Williams. Use up. Meaning, to consume, use up or finish something. Example: your brother used up the last of the tea bags so we had to buy some more. We used up the paper products in no time and bought more. These experiences are fast, private to you, and use up less battery. Through thin and thick. Meaning, through good times and bad times in spite of all the difficulties. Examples: he's been a good friend to her through thick and thin. Our company has survived through thick and thin, and will be able to get through this ordeal as well. Over the years, we went through thick and thin and enjoyed every minute of it. Stand by. Meaning, one not act or do anything. To be loyal to. Examples: he just stood by when the police beat up the demonstrators. We are simply not willing to stand by while too little is done by football authorities and social media companies to protect players from this disgusting abuse. She stood by her husband in times of trouble. I agree and absolutely stand by the decision made. Old flame. Meaning, a former lover. Examples: I saw my old flame the other day and she looked great. Yet, Ben is her old flame they dated last summer. Last week Alec was seen dining with his old flame Janine Turner in New York. Muster up. Meaning, to gather or bring together. Examples: finally last week, she mustered up the courage to escape. Legislators should muster up the compassion, if not for the animals, then for their tax-paying constituents, to pass this act. I was silent for a while before I mustered up the courage to politely decline his offer. Footloose and fancy-free. Meaning, having no attachments, especially romantic ones, free to do as one pleases. Examples: now that I have a family and a mortgage, I miss being footloose and fancy-free. When I was in my 20s, footloose and fancy-free, I would travel at the drop of a hat. All the rest of them have wives, but John is footloose and fancy-free. Inept meaning, not suitable or capable, unqualified, clumsy, not graceful in expression. Examples: she proved how inept she was when she forgot 2 orders and spilled a pint of cider in a customer's lap. He also called the investigation inept and incomplete. The offenses were consistently brilliant and the defenses consistently inept, the perfect recipe for excitement. A mine of information. Meaning: someone or something that contains a lot of knowledge about a topic. Examples: you should ask Amanda for advice about your cake recipe. She's a mine of information about baking. My grandmother was a mine of information on the family's history. People criticize television, but for children it's a mine of information. Gobble up. Meaning: one or eat hastily or hungrily in large pieces. 2. To use or deplete something quickly and in its entirety. Examples: the wolf said that he was going to gobble the little girl up. Now that the baby is eating solid food, she just gobbles up anything we put in front of her. Liberal newspapers gobbled up thousands of new subscribers. I gobbled up every word of that book, and now can't imagine ever returning to it. Complacency. Meaning: noun, self-satisfaction, ignorance of danger. Examples: Simon tried to shock his friends out of their complacency by painting a frightening picture of what might happen to them. Ben stressed that complacency and overconfidence were the enemies of scientific progress. We are launching this deliberately bold, audacious campaign to jolt our world leaders from their complacency. A man of many parts. Meaning: a man with great ability in many different areas. Examples: he was a man of parts, a painter, Egyptologist, and biographer. Preston was recalled as being a man of many parts, scientist, scholar, and musician. Parkinson was a man of many parts. He was active in politics, writing pamphlets under the pseudonym of Old Hubert, and was a knowledgeable natural scientist. Face up to. Meaning: to confront with courage someone or something representing a threat or unpleasantness, accept responsibility, blame, or a particular reality. Examples: you are simply going to have to admit your mistake and face up to the boss. You must face up to the authorities if you have done something wrong. The manager finally faced up to the problem of theft. A whiz kid. Meaning: a child or young adult, who is exceptionally skilled or intelligent. Examples: he was developing software by the time he was 10 years old. He's a total computer whiz kid. Those whiz kids at the spelling bee are always so impressive to watch. Sarah's the new whiz kid in accounting. She'll help you tackle the budget in no time. Put someone down. Meaning: to criticize, belittle, disparage, deprecate, denigrate. Examples: the teacher is always putting me down for small mistakes. The boss is always putting me down in front of everyone in the office. It's really making my life miserable. Tommy, don't put your brother down like that. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. Clandestine. Meaning: adjective, kept secret or done secretively, especially because illicit. Examples: we are injured and sometimes killed by clandestine procedures. A foreign agent is a person who knowingly engages in clandestine activities on behalf of a foreign power. New controls on the fishery are expected to clamp down on clandestine sales. String to one's bow. Meaning: to have more than one interest, skill, or resource. Examples: with all this varied job experience under my belt, I have more than one string to my bow if this particular career path isn't to my liking. I've got a job interview next week, but I'm still handing out my resume so that I'll have more than one string to my bow. In order to stand out as an artist in this overcrowded genre, it is necessary to have at least one outstanding, or at least distinctive, string to one's bow. Ham up. Meaning: to exaggerate or overdo, especially with extravagant emotion. Examples: this is a serious play, so please don't ham up your part. When we realized we were being filmed, we all started behaving differently, hamming it up for the cameras. Hamming up the eulogy was disgraceful, especially since he didn't even know the deceased. Indolent. Meaning: adjective, wanting to avoid activity or exertion, lazy, inactive, inert. Examples: but he's as determined as his manner is indolent. My MST classmates are so indolent, they wouldn't read the book for homework. Suddenly, indolent cells become cancers that spread and kill. Circumspect. Meaning, wary and unwilling to take risks, cautious. Examples, Klobahar was generally more circumspect in her interview. They are now arguing internally for Barr to be more circumspect in public statements. We were as circumspect as possible about actually giving away season 2 plot points. Highly strung. Meaning, very nervous and easily upset. Examples, I determined to say nothing about the former to my wife, for she is a nervous, highly strung woman. She's highly strung as she breaks down, saying her husband's death was all her fault. Glasgow-born Laura plays highly strung executive Lydia Redardy-Quayle in the U.S. drama about a science teacher who cooks up illegal drugs. Chide. Meaning, scold or rebuke. Examples, he lives with his 2 sisters and his mother, who often chide him to be more strict with the boys. They chided him over his interactions with the human resources official. Liu chided U.S. officials for bringing cases against Chinese nationals without first informing their Chinese counterparts. Make mincemeat of. Meaning, defeat decisively in a fight, contest, or argument. Examples, if he doesn't stop teasing me, I'm going to make mincemeat of him. You better practice for Sunday's match, or your opponent will make mincemeat out of you. The professor made mincemeat of the speaker at the conference. Appease. Meaning, to calm, satisfy, make peace with. Examples, when Jerry cries, his mother gives him chocolate to appease him. The announcement is part of a series of recent decisions by the administration aimed at appeasing the sector. It's not going to appease the crowds. Their first demand is that Bouteflika step down. Loose cannon. Meaning, someone who has the propensity to act unpredictably or to lose their temper very quickly. Examples, you really have to be mindful of what you say to Jake. He's a loose cannon, and the smallest things will send him into a fit of rage. The star quarterback's reputation as a loose cannon hurt his chances of being signed by a new team. He has a reputation as a loose cannon whose comments sometimes upset Wall Street. Incisive. Meaning, clear, sharp, direct, intelligently analytical and clear thinking. Examples, I think that is such an incisive question, and I think about it all the time. The lyrics are as incisive as always, hilarious, and filled with bathos and joy. The veteran journalist was one of the most incisive critics of the new autocratic wave. Callous. Meaning, adjective, harsh, cold, unfeeling. Examples, the murderer's callous lack of remorse shocked the jury. The reported details are a reminder of the arbitrary and callous administration of the country's immigration laws. His latest comments, though, might be just as callous and ignorant. Stock up. Meaning, to build up a supply of something. Examples, I hadn't stocked up on food, so I wasn't ready to feed Kate and her friends. We stocked the house up with food, so you should have plenty to eat while we're gone. The kitchen is running low on a few things, but Brady's coming round to stock us up tomorrow. Brusque. Meaning, adjective, short, abrupt, dismissive. Examples, Simon's brusque manner sometimes offends his colleagues. Some people I talked to were nice, but others were vague and brusque, even rude. They also were measurably numb to intrusive or brusque touches. Wet blanket. Meaning, a dull or depressing person who spoils other people's enjoyment. Examples, Jack's fun at parties, but his brother's a wet blanket. Don't invite Nicole to the party. She's such a wet blanket that she'll probably just complain the whole time. David was tired of being called a wet blanket by his friends just because he doesn't drink alcohol. Connive. Meaning, to plot, to scheme, encourage or assent to illegally or criminally. Examples, she connived to get me to give up my plans to start up a new business. He is elusive and conniving, earnest and manipulative, brutal and desperate. Nixon schemed, connived, and did everything he thought was necessary to achieve victory. Glad rags. Meaning, clothes for a special occasion, smart or showy clothes. Examples, she changed out of her glad rags and tugged on old jeans. This isn't a formal event, so there's no need for your glad rags. Let's put on our glad rags and go out on the town. Sniff out. Meaning, 1. To discover where something or someone is by smelling. 2. To uncover, reveal, or expose someone or something through some form of investigation. Examples, at customs, dogs are used to sniff out drugs in passengers' luggage. We've sent a pack of dogs to sniff the fugitive out. If the company is up to anything fishy, the auditor will sniff it out. Our lead investigative journalist sniffed out the politician leaking information to foreign intelligence agents. Implacable meaning, 1. Being appeased, unforgiving or mitigate. 2. Unable to be stopped, relentless. Examples, watch out, once you shun grandmother's cooking, she is totally implacable. He went to great lengths to protect himself against the implacably hostile investigators. Hers is a vision of implacable change, but also domestic tranquility. With implacable authority, Mary C. Cole introduces herself through a series of scenes. Harp on. Meaning, to dwell on, talk or write about to a tedious and excessive extent. Examples, she kept harping on the fact that she had no household help at all. I wish you would quit harping on Jeff all the time. He couldn't be all that bad. Stop harping on my mistakes and work on your own. Down at heel. Meaning, having a poor, shabby appearance. Examples, a lot of so-called hipsters try to affect a down-at-heel look, a sort of shabby chic appearance out of second-hand clothing. John has been looking increasingly down at heel ever since he lost his job last year. When I was a down-at-the-heels detective, I couldn't afford to eat here. Alacrity. Meaning, brisk and cheerful readiness, eagerness, willingness. Examples, often technology that doesn't totally work is embraced with alacrity. It's great that the coalition began this conversation 18 months ago, and it's important that it move forward with alacrity. So there is no reason to be moving with too much alacrity. Inside job. Meaning, a crime committed by someone working or living at the scene of the crime. Examples, there was little doubt that it was an inside job, thought the inspector. It's a particularly cunning way to carry out an inside job. The robbery must have been an inside job. Only 3 people have access to the safe. Pick it. Meaning, 1. To nag, hassle, or berate one, to be very critical of or negative about one. 2. To pull at something with one's fingertips. 3. To eat a small amount of food in tiny bites and without much interest. Examples, why are you always picking at Jimmy? You know how sensitive he is. If you keep picking at those scabs, that scrape is never going to heal. I always pick at the bottom of my shirt when I get nervous like that. Why are you picking at your food? Did you eat something earlier and spoil your appetite? Impertinent. Meaning, 1. Rude, insolent. 2. Not pertinent to the matter under consideration. Examples, most of your comments are so impertinent that I don't wish to dignify them with an answer. Some impertinent man sinks low and goes as far as accusing our ancestors of thievery. Today, Khashoggi is no longer able to ask such impertinent questions. He made himself available to the buzz to answer a few impertinent questions. Cumulative. Meaning, increasing by successive addition. Examples, and I haven't even gotten to issues concerning the deficit or cumulative debt. There's also been a blurring of the line between test prep coaching and conventional, cumulative learning of material. She talks instead of the cumulative effect of spending years on the road. Pull the wool over one's eyes. Meaning, to deceive someone by telling untruths. Examples, he tried pulling the wool over our eyes by hiding the profits in separate accounts, but we were quick to catch on to his scheme. Be prepared for your kids to try to pull the wool over your eyes when they're teenagers. Don't try to pull the wool over her eyes. She's too smart. Put forth/forward. Meaning, to offer or propose something for consideration. Examples, the newly elected mayor has put forth a number of plans for dealing with the housing crisis in the city. I want each of you to put 3 new ideas forth by the end of every week. Who first put forth the idea that the earth is round rather than flat? Take for a ride. Meaning, to con, swindle, or deceive one. Examples: that get-rich-quick guru took tens of thousands of people for a ride, lining his own pockets with their investments. I can't believe I let that guy take me for a ride like that. You really took those people for a ride. They really believed you. Impudent. Meaning, casually rude, insolent, impertinent. Examples: she battles to suppress her attraction to this impudent man. The impudent young woman looked her teacher up and down and told him he was hot. He was, in Smith's words, pushy, wild, charismatic, street smart, impudent, often hilarious. Decry. Meaning, to criticize openly, to express strong disapproval of. Examples: the leader of the Defense Party decried the appalling state of Polish roads. The Democratic movement held a news conference Thursday to decry the amendments. Live news readers around the world decried the tragic loss of this 12th century marvel. Impeccable. Meaning, exemplary or flawless. Examples: he was known as the super smart Brit with impeccable manners. Langston was self-effacing and mischievous, with a warm smile and impeccable English. Gantz's Blue and White Party says the former Army Chief of Staff's conduct was impeccable. A free ride. Meaning, an unfair advantage or special treatment that a person receives without earning it or paying for it. Examples: even though his grades were poor, Gary thought he should get a free ride to college because he was a football star. You're getting a free ride living with your parents. You don't even have to pay rent. I never wanted anyone to think I was getting a free ride or special treatment from the boss. Crank out. Meaning, to produce something in large amounts, like a machine does. Examples: with the deadline looming, the staff was able to crank out the layout in just a few hours, thank goodness. I write a novel every few years, but that author seems to crank one out every few months. The automated production line could really crank out parts, but the quality was shoddy. Acquiesce. Meaning, to agree without protesting. Examples: Mexico is acquiescing to the U.S. and handling this in a law enforcement. They accused Democratic leaders of acquiescing to their party's most liberal voices. Providers must acquiesce to a 40% reduction in reimbursements. Rat on. Meaning, to inform an authority figure of one's bad or illegal behavior. Examples: the hoodlum ratted on the rest of the gangsters. I can't believe you ratted on me like that to mom and dad. I'm never telling you anything ever again. The criminal ratted on his accomplices to avoid jail time. Haughty meaning, disdainfully proud. Examples: the superstar's haughty dismissal of her co-stars will backfire on her someday. She seemed both weak and imperious, helpless yet haughty. Even unconscious, he looked proud and haughty, but there was nothing to be afraid of. Do a runner. Meaning, leave or escape from somebody/a place, often after doing something wrong. Examples: they were arrested after doing a runner from an expensive restaurant. What happened to his wife? She did a runner. Nobody's seen her for months. The young man did a runner when the police went up to question him. Aberration. Meaning, something that differs from the norm. Examples: it allows the public to see the threat as a trend rather than an aberration. They were even more emphatic in their condemnation of the decision as an aberration. Trump's conduct in Paris was anything but an aberration. Gratuitous. Meaning, uncalled for, unwarranted. Examples: repressive tactics seem unnecessary, gratuitous, and wrong. Every evening the guy at the fish and chip shop gives me a gratuitous helping of vinegar. There was a lot of gratuitous meanness and sort of misguided decision-making. Gluttony. Meaning, overindulgence in food or drink. Examples: in fact, I think that keeping the whole pie for oneself is sheer gluttony. Helen's fried chicken tastes so divine, I don't know how anyone can call gluttony a sin. Both men felt guilty about their gluttony that day and challenged each other to do better. By no stretch. Meaning, unable to happen, within, at, or beyond the limits of the imagination. Examples: by no stretch do I think our team has a chance of winning tonight. By no stretch will we be able to pull this off. By no stretch of the imagination does the factory operate efficiently. Prescriptive. Meaning, relating to the imposition or enforcement of a rule or method. Examples: these guidelines are not intended to be prescriptive. Other financial firms are asking the BOE to provide more prescriptive recommendations. This week's report marked a minor revolution in the Academy's traditionally prescriptive approach. A poacher turned a gamekeeper. Meaning, someone who now protects the interests which they previously attacked. Examples: he used to represent an oil company but now works for an environmental organization, a real case of the poacher turned gamekeeper. That was very enjoyable at the time, but perhaps I am a poacher turned gamekeeper now that I'm back in the city center. In the security business you need to employ someone who is a poacher turned gamekeeper. Temperance. Meaning, 1. Abstinence from drinking alcohol. 2. The trait of avoiding excesses. Examples: Max has become an advocate of complete temperance. Kelly might value normalcy and temperance over chaos and impulse. We remember Franklin as the apostle of hard work, temperance, and self-control. The straight and narrow. Meaning, a straight and law-abiding route through life. Examples: the threat of a good beating should keep him on the straight and narrow. You should have no trouble with the police if you stick to the straight and narrow. Roger was the kind who followed the straight and narrow every day of his life. Forsake. Meaning, to abandon. Examples: the town was forsaken because the nearby volcano threatened to erupt. The Lord goes before you and will be with you, he will never leave you nor forsake you. She is no longer hailed as a moral icon, but condemned for forsaking the oppressed. Avarice. Meaning, excessive greed. Examples: the banker's avarice led him to amass an enormous personal fortune. Avarice drives the search for the smallest advantage in the cutthroat world of high finance. Some people's avarice extends to hoarding the food for later, ignoring that it's generally only intended to feed you while you're at work. Cushy number. Meaning, a job that is easy, stress-free, and typically well paid. Examples: since I got this cushy number managing a toy store, I've gotten to sit around playing with toys all day. Since Sarah got that cushy number with the bank, she has been driving a sports car and is buying a second home. I get to work from home and spend a lot of time with my kids, it's certainly a cushy number. At the top of the ladder. Meaning, in the highest or most important position in a group or organization. Examples: with her new promotion, Jill is now at the top of the ladder as CEO. Your expenses are so high and the returns are so low, unless you're at the top of the ladder. They are a really good team and they deserve their position at the top of the ladder. Distraught. Meaning, adjective, very agitated and upset from mental conflict. Examples: he was so distraught that he chopped off his inked finger. Mary became distraught when she found out that her son was being sent into war. Olivia is still distraught and embarrassed. She hasn't been home much. Get a foot in the door. Meaning, to have a chance to do something that could lead to further opportunities. Examples: an internship might not sound very interesting, but it's a great way to get your foot in the door at this company. I really wanted to be a photographer and the only reason I took the job was because I thought it might help me get a foot in the door. Temping is a good way to get your foot in the door. Disarmament. Meaning, noun, the reduction of military or weapons. Examples: the protesters called for a complete disarmament. The diplomatic talks meant to provide the North with concessions in return for disarmament. A 2003 disarmament law effectively prevented most Brazilians from buying guns. Sleeping partner. Meaning, a partner in a business who does not play an active role, exp. one who supplies capital. Examples: he made up his mind to be a sleeping partner in the opera. The same day I was placed in a shop in Broadway, belonging to a firm of which I now understood the colonel was a sleeping partner. I'll just invest in your company as a silent partner. Commemorate meaning, to remember and show respect, in a ceremony. Examples, the nameless victims of mass killings are also commemorated at the exhibition. Veterans Day is a day to commemorate soldiers who have honorably served their country. He announced that the firefighters would receive a medal commemorating their bravery. Track record. Meaning, a history of someone's or something's performance. Examples, this applicant has an excellent track record. The mayor brought in the new police chief because he has a strong track record of reducing crime in inner-city neighborhoods. The company had an almost perfect track record before the scandal, which made it even more shocking. Furtive. Meaning, adjective, secretive, sly. Examples, she clearly thinks I am insane, pointedly ignoring my furtive readjustments. Other times during the trial, he glanced around the room in a furtive manner. It seemed suspicious, so she shot a short, furtive video of them walking with it backstage. Precipitate. Meaning, verb, to cause to happen suddenly or sooner than expected. Examples, extremely high gas prices precipitated the demise of the SUV. A February 27 loss at Villanova that precipitated a 1-6 slide to end the season. The Six Cities study precipitated another evolutionary step in air management. Golden handshake. Meaning, a large sum of money given to somebody when they leave their job, or to persuade them to leave their job. Examples, the directors will each get a large golden handshake and a pension. She offered me a golden handshake to get me to leave quietly, which I did. With a dwindling school population, the town decided to offer golden handshakes to some of the teachers. Incite. Meaning, verb, to stir up or encourage, violent or unlawful behavior. Examples, Max incited the other students to rebel against the teacher. Terrorist content includes material that incites or advocates for terrorist offenses. He's trying to incite hatred, Islamophobia and, I would argue, violence against her. Go great guns. Meaning, to do something enthusiastically and successfully. Examples, he was hesitant at first, but after a month, he was going great guns. I'm over my cold and going great guns. Business is great. We are going great guns selling ice cream. Disperse. Meaning, verb, cause to go in different directions. Examples, the crowd dispersed as soon as the concert was over. When you bring a fun, lively, well-lit and secure entertainment facility, that disperses crime. They said it was an attempt by security forces to disperse the demonstrators. Go belly up. Meaning, to have a poor, undesired, or ruinous outcome, to fail completely or not come together at all. Examples, we were all set to have our picnic on Saturday, but the weather went belly up and we had to cancel at the last minute. Everything started off well, but the business went belly up when one of the partners resigned. The single currency could well go belly up within 2 or 3 years. Allege. Meaning, verb, assert or claim wrongdoing by someone, typically without proof. Examples, the teacher alleged that Max cheated on the exam. Authorities in the United States are probing Hawaii for alleged sanctions violations. She also alleged that he choked her, damaged her house, and then left with their child. Go to the wall. Meaning, 1. Of a business, go out of business, fail. 2. Support someone or something, no matter what the cost to oneself. Examples, thousands of firms are expected to go to the wall this year. Despite putting forth our best effort, we went to the wall and came home losers. I would go to the wall for you, so I'll certainly endorse you on the campaign trail. This man will go to the wall for you if you're on his side. Recant. Meaning, to reject or disavow a formerly held belief, usually under pressure. Examples, the authorities forced him to recant his conclusion that the Earth orbits the Sun. Burton quickly recanted his statement, which was inconsistent with evidence at the scene. But LaToya later recanted her claims, and nobody in the Jackson family ever confirmed any of these rumors. Go bust. Meaning, to spend or lose all of one's money, to go broke. Examples: I'm going to go bust if I have to pay any more medical bills this month. I'm surprised his business went bust. I really thought it was poised for success. Christian Purslow has dismissed fears that the club will go bust. Fractious. Meaning, 1 troublesome or irritable. 2 stubbornly resistant to authority or control. Examples: within the team, an already fractious debate will become even more heated. May was also criticized as focusing on her party and its fractious naysayers. Rockets were much too fractious to be tested near thickly populated areas. A fractious animal that would not submit to the harness. Noxious. Meaning, harmful or unpleasant, injurious to physical or mental health. Examples: be careful applying pesticides. Their fumes are often quite noxious to humans. The rest was made up of other noxious gases also monitored by the UBA. Savage inserted himself directly into a noxious political climate. Rat race. Meaning, a way of life in which people are caught up in a fiercely competitive struggle for wealth or power. Examples: owning one's moment is a clever way to rebrand surviving the rat race. I was so wrapped up in the rat race that I was putting an inordinate amount of stress on myself. Who hasn't dreamed of giving up the rat race up to live on a sunny island? Nocturnal. Meaning, adjective, active at night. Examples: nocturnal plants have flowers that open at night and close by day. Mountain lions are primarily nocturnal and do almost all of their hunting at night. Red pandas are nocturnal and are generally found in wooded areas. Glass ceiling. Meaning, barrier to advancement, especially for women and people of color. Examples: there was never a glass ceiling and women had no barriers to break. This was our playing field all along. In many professions a woman cannot break through the glass ceiling to the upper level of management. Harriet knew she'd never be promoted, she would never get through the glass ceiling. Laud meaning, to praise, glorify, or honor. Examples: the school's principal lauded the teacher for her ability to discipline her class. Prince's was lauded as an icon in Eater's annual list 38 essential American restaurants. While parents and advocates lauded the step as important and positive, some also described the stark data as troubling. Cloud on the horizon. Meaning, something that threatens to cause problems or unhappiness in the future. Examples: the only cloud on the horizon is the physics exam in June. Financial analysts believe that the sudden drop in oil prices points to a cloud on the horizon for the national economy. Although we are making good profits, there is one cloud on the horizon: the government may increase taxes. Emulate. Meaning, verb, to imitate or model yourself after, approach or reach equality with. Examples: children often emulate adults that they look up to. This effort will show that truly dramatic and material reductions in overdose deaths are possible, and provide lessons and models for other communities to adopt and emulate. The latest generation is on track to emulate the early 1970s and mid-1990s teams and potentially shape the Champions League talks. Hit the roof. Meaning, to become extremely angry or upset. Examples: my parents are going to hit the roof if they find out we had a party here. The boss hit the roof when he saw that we'd already blown through the budget. My dad will hit the roof when he finds out that I wrecked his car. Throw a lifeline. Meaning, to provide someone with a means of escaping from a difficult situation. Examples: it is absolutely essential that the therapist throw a lifeline to the patient, that he give the patient hope. It also expected Moscow to throw a lifeline to the U.S. Iran policy by supporting the sanctions on Iran. It was asking a rescue crew if it wanted to throw a lifeline to a shipwrecked survivor. Callous. Meaning, adjective, insensitive and unfeeling toward others, emotionally hardened. Examples: the teacher was particularly callous in her treatment of the children. This proclivity begins in childhood with callous and cruel behaviors. His latest comments, though, might be just as callous and ignorant. Ballpark figure. Meaning, a rough numerical estimate or approximation. Examples: do you have a ballpark figure for the cost of the renovations? That's just a ballpark figure. They don't know exactly how many people will be attending the event. Ballpark figures are commonly used by accountants, salespersons, and other professionals to estimate current or future results. Taciturn. Meaning, adjective, reserved, saying little. Examples, Max seems to be unusually taciturn today. Something must be bothering him. Furnish, a taciturn man, who says he's most comfortable outside on a farm. Hayes' transformation over the years is far less physically radical, and he's relatively taciturn. Windfall. Meaning, an unexpected, unearned, or sudden gain or advantage. Examples, investors each received a windfall of £3,000. UK. The government is hoping to collect a windfall tax from British Electric. The Belridge School, after receiving a financial windfall, purchased computers for all students and teachers. Permeate. Meaning, verb, to spread throughout, usually odor. Examples, the stench of the rotten food permeated the entire building. Dissatisfaction with the government seems to have permeated every section of society. The table has a plastic coating which prevents liquids from permeating into the wood beneath. Rein in. Meaning, to control something and stop it increasing. Examples, consumers tend to rein in their spending in a recession. Some of the worst Wall Street abuses have been reined in. We need to rein back on expenditure in the next financial year. Epitome. Meaning, noun, a perfect example. Examples, some people feel that George Bush is the epitome of arrogance. Even now in her 60s, she is the epitome of French elegance. My poem is a sort of abstract, an epitome, a compendium of the lecture itself. Tighten the belt. Meaning, to spend less money. Examples, I've had to tighten my belt since I stopped working full-time. Many small businesses are tightening their belts because of the slow economy. Living on my own during college taught me how to tighten my belt and get by on not very much. Animosity. Meaning, noun, strong hostility, hatred. Examples, for some reason, Max feels a lot of animosity toward Mary. After the animosity of 2017, last year saw a stunning turn to diplomacy. It quickly escalated, and the animosity between the two men exploded. Across the board. Meaning, applying to or impacting every part or individual in a group or spectrum of things. Examples, some senior employees are unhappy that the new dress code applies to everyone across the board. The politician is expected to call for tax increases across the board. Second, and worse, COLAs are applied across the board to all pensioners, no matter how lavishly provided for. Ad lib. Meaning, adverb, without advance preparation. Examples, at the end of this period the cat was returned to an ad lib diet. The next type of speaker, who comes after the pure ad lib speaker, is the library speaker. Will there be investigations into the way in which hospitals are run, or are 5 stars just awarded ad lib? Touch base. Meaning, to contact someone to update them or receive an update from them. Examples, I was just calling to touch base since it's been a few weeks since we last spoke. Will you please touch base with the marketing team and find out how they're progressing? John and I touched base on this question yesterday, and we are in agreement. Window of opportunity. Meaning, a brief time period in which an opportunity exists. Examples, this afternoon, I had a brief window of opportunity when I could discuss this with the boss, but she wasn't receptive. The summit offers a window of opportunity for the two countries to reach an agreement. Some fear we may have already missed our window of opportunity to get the development plan approved by the city. Copious meaning, adjective, plentiful, abundant in supply. Examples, we drank copious amounts of coffee in order to stay awake during class. I think a lot of people think keto is all about bacon salami and copious amounts of cheese. Though the goal of such games is usually to get from one area to the next, that framework supports copious possibilities. Cut the mustard. Meaning, come up to expectations, reach the required standard. Examples: I need a new worker from the temp agency. The one you sent over keeps mixing up orders and just isn't cutting the mustard. This toaster doesn't cut the mustard anymore. No matter what setting you choose, your toast comes out charred. Truth be told, Donald Sutherland can still cut the mustard as a charismatic TV star. Prolific. Meaning, adjective, very productive. Examples: Noam Chomsky is a very prolific author. He's written many books and articles. General McMaster was a prolific note-taker, recording details for later reference. The 100 prolific offenders in the sample were involved in nearly 3,600 criminal cases. Gloves are off. Meaning, people are arguing or competing without regard to their actions or each other's feelings. Examples: in the software price war, the gloves are coming off. The gloves are off in this match. Both teams are purposely committing fouls against opposing players. The gloves are off now. Mom and Aunt G are screaming at each other in the kitchen. Finagle. Meaning, verb, to get something through manipulation or dishonest means. Examples: Ted attended all the football games he could finagle tickets for. He somehow finagled his way into the army as a lieutenant. How can I finagle a place on the guest list for the big party? Think outside the box. Meaning, think in an original or creative way. Examples: you won't come up with good ideas until you think outside the box. Let's think outside the box for a minute and try to find a better solution. We know that in today's sluggish economy, business owners have to think outside the box. Candor. Meaning, noun, the quality of openness and honesty in attitude and expression. Examples: in all candor, I think that Max is a complete nincompoop. Millsap's candor conveyed a good chunk of the significance attached to this win, but not all of it. She writes with candor about the strain her running sometimes put on her marriage. Umbrage. Meaning, resentment, offense. Examples: he called me a lily-livered coward, and I took umbrage at the insult. Instead of taking umbrage at being offered a senior discount, try a bit of humor. They channel that umbrage into music that refuses such limitations. Suck it and see. Meaning, the only way to know if something will work or be suitable is to try it. Examples: for other baits, and for different waters, it is a case of suck it and see. We have no way of knowing whether it's the right strategy. We're going to have to suck it and see. The government's suck it and see approach has led to a level of prosperity which is the envy of the world. Expedite. Meaning, verb, to make something happen sooner, usually an action or process. Examples: a doc said its technology, approved by US and European regulators, helps radiologists expedite patient treatment. Max called the cable company to see if they could expedite the installation process. Volink said the Corps will work with levee operators to expedite interim repairs. Venerable. Meaning, adjective, 1. Deserving of respect because of age or achievement. 2. Impressive by reason of age. Examples: I mean, donating a building one with your family's venerable name on it. The venerable Chinese sage Sun Tzu once said that in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. This venerable institution, a mainstay of America's 19th century country towns, made land selling a game as popular as poker. Put off. Meaning, to delay or move an activity to a later time. Antonym, bring forward. Examples: I put off a visit to the dentist as long as I could. I'm sorry I've been putting you off lately, it's just been really hectic in work and at home. Has Helen said anything to you about me recently? I feel like she's putting me off. Truculent. Meaning, adjective, ready to fight, cruel. Examples: he was playfully truculent throughout his 20 minutes. This club doesn't really attract the dangerous types, so why was that bouncer being so truculent? But why treat the finger painting of a truculent toddler as if it were a Picasso? Gregarious. Meaning, adjective, sociable, outgoing. Examples: Max is a very gregarious person. He likes to be around people. Bradley Atkins, as someone who was this gregarious, adventurous, hilarious person. There's a tremendous amount of energy, a very gregarious personality, loves basketball, loves to coach, loves to work with the kids. Test the waters. Meaning, to find out whether something is likely to be successful before you do or try it. Examples: I want to test the water before I make the proposal at the general meeting. Before you start marketing it, you should test the waters. Lenders continue to test the waters, often declining loans which might have been approved in the past. Credence. Meaning, noun, belief that or acceptance that something is true. Examples: Todd accused the Attorney General of giving credence to a conspiracy theory. They are giving him great credence because he will tell them what they want to hear. As a result, the deletion of his recent photos on her Instagram page seems to lend credence to the rumors that he cheated once again. Live on shoestrings. Meaning, to live within a very tight or limited financial budget. Examples: some of them managed to live on shoestring budgets of only $20 a month. Is she implying that I am going to live my life on a shoestring? Don't live on a shoestring. Meeting your basic life expenses is one margin call that you have to meet. Rebuke. Meaning, verb, to express strong criticism or disapproval. Examples: Mary rebuked her children for not cleaning their bedrooms. But New Mexico's Attorney General rebuked the militia. The university also rebuked the video in its own statement on Saturday. Breadwinner. Meaning, a person who earns money to support their family, typically the sole one. Examples: Fitri's father died when she was young and she is the breadwinner. His wife and children, who are American citizens, remain in West Palm Beach, struggling to survive without the breadwinner of the family. With my husband gone, this debt is now an even greater burden for me as he was the main breadwinner. Scrutinize. Meaning, verb, to look over or inspect closely. Examples: when you sign the mortgage papers, be sure to scrutinize the fine print. Both incidents were heavily scrutinized and greeted with regret by all sides. Federal agents and prosecutors were scrutinizing his conduct before and after taking office. Sell one's own grandmother. Meaning, willingness to do whatever it takes to succeed at something. Examples: he sold out the Gypsy travel agency, and for his chance to succeed, I believe he'd sell his own grandmother. A zealous salesperson is often willing to sell their own grandmother, given half a chance. It is true that using one's social relations does not necessarily mean selling one's own grandmother, or cashing in on one's acquaintances. Plausible. Meaning, adjective, believable, possible. Examples: it doesn't seem plausible that your dog actually ate your homework. But there are few other plausible solutions big enough to tackle a vast problem. The only plausible explanation is that the self-confidence of the United States really is rapidly rupturing and shrinking. Pour money down the drain. Meaning, to waste money by spending it on something useless. Examples: what a waste. Buying that old car is just pouring money down the drain. Don't buy any more of that low-quality merchandise, that's just throwing money down the drain. Current account customers pour money down the drain by not looking closely enough at the real cost of sticking with existing accounts. Scrimp. Meaning, verb, to be thrifty or parsimonious, economize. Examples: I have scrimped and saved to give you a good education. There is a risk that the debt-ridden airline may be tempted to scrimp on maintenance or security. She scrimped and saved to care for her 2 younger sisters. Against all the odds. Meaning, to achieve something although there were a lot of problems and you were not likely to succeed. Examples: against the odds, he was able to survive being stranded in the wilderness for a week with no food. His lawyer worked for much less than her normal fee and, against all the odds, she won. She struggled against all the odds before she died of her burn injuries. Grassroots. Meaning, the most basic level of an activity or organization. Ordinary citizens. Examples: the newly elected MP expressed a wish for greater contact with people at grassroots level. The process included restoring the connections between urban and provincial France, introducing more grassroots democracy, and tackling climate change. Impeccable. Meaning, adjective, perfect, flawless. Examples, he was known as the super smart Brit with impeccable manners. Langston was self-effacing and mischievous, with a warm smile and impeccable English. Gantz's Blue says the former Army Chief of Staff's conduct was impeccable. Public enemy number 1. Meaning, a person or concept that is despised or disapproved of by a large portion of the population. Examples, the pharmaceutical executive became public enemy number 1 almost overnight with his decision to hike the price of an inexpensive but life-saving drug. The newly elected Prime Minister has stated that the homelessness crisis would be considered public enemy number 1 under her administration. Enlightened citizens who turned a blind eye to religious arguments against inoculation made smallpox into public enemy number 1. Gullible. Meaning, adjective, easily persuaded to believe something, trusting. Examples, is anyone still gullible enough to believe anything on the first day of April? And manipulate a gullible media into amplifying the spin instead of reporting the truth. The fact is that Cambridge sold snake oil to gullible political campaigns around the world. The movers and shakers. Meaning, people with a lot of power and influence. Examples, a newspaper profile portrayed the man as a mover and shaker on Wall Street. He is one of the principal movers and shakers in the political arena. The conference is going to be full of movers and shakers of the industry, so I want to make a good impression. Conundrum. Meaning, noun, a confusing problem or question, brain teaser, enigma, riddle. Examples, a woman is the mother of 5 children who shared 3 fathers, a mathematical riddle and parentage conundrum. The EU's biggest conundrum is how to ensure the Irish-UK border does not become a site of transfer of illegal or dangerous goods. There's no question that the city's elite faces a conundrum in choosing between the two. The power behind the throne. Meaning, a person who exerts authority or influence without having formal status. Examples, the president's charisma and likability got him elected, but his team of advisors is the real power behind the throne. Mr. Smith appears to run the shop, but his brother is the power behind the throne. She was the real power behind the throne, a strong and determined woman controlling a weaker husband for her own aims. Sycophant. Meaning, one who flatters for self-gain. Examples, he also denies he would be a Trump sycophant. Mark is a longtime friend, ally, and sycophant to this family. He surrounded himself with sycophants, people dedicated to his promotion and their advancement. Snake oil. Meaning, a product, policy, etc. of little real worth or value that is promoted as the solution to a problem. Examples, my mom keeps giving me all of these hippy-dippy pills to help my migraines, but I think they're just snake oil, honestly. Smooth-talking snake oil salesmen use the telephone to take money from the foolish and the greedy and then vanish. Tax professionals need to shut the door on the snake oil salesman. Taciturn. Meaning, adjective, not inclined to talk, reserved, withdrawn, introverted. Examples, though Magda never seems to stop talking, her brother is quite taciturn. Astley was a man so shy, reserved, and taciturn in his manner. At dinner the prince usually spoke to the taciturn Michael Ivanovich more often than to anyone else. Vilify. Meaning, verb, to write or speak badly or abusively about. Examples, it was time to move on from efforts to vilify a political opponent. They raided each other's quarries, bribed each other's crews, and vilified each other in print and at scientific meetings. He was a victim who was vilified and made to appear as a perpetrator as a result of false and inappropriate remarks. Square meal meaning, a substantial, satisfying, and balanced meal. Examples, the troops were tired and hadn't had a square meal for 5 days. The hot lunch program at school provides square meals for underprivileged children. Do you survive on yogurt at lunchtime while your partner wants a square meal? Malice. Meaning, noun, the desire to hurt others. Examples, Jim has a great amount of malice towards the government. There was no overt malice to Durant's work, no forcing of the issue, no commotion. Jesus didn't call us to respond with malice and vindictiveness to people who mistreat, disrespect, hurt, or offend us even when it is justified. Not lose any sleep over something. Meaning, to not let something worry or upset you. Examples, it was just a mistake. Don't lose any sleep over it. The business does have problems at present, but it's nothing I'm going to lose any sleep over. I'm disappointed about their decision, but I'm not losing any sleep over it. Disdain. Meaning, lack of respect accompanied by a feeling of intense dislike. Examples, he is well known for his disdain for unfair labor practices. From then on, they were treated as annoyances, with a sprinkling of disdain. His writings showed a disdain for multiculturalism and hardened a reputation as a right-wing ideologue. Outstay one's welcome. Meaning, one stay as a visitor longer than one is wanted. To become unwanted in a particular environment. Examples, he makes you feel you've outstayed your welcome before you've even sat down. Though wildly popular for a short time, the product simply outstayed its welcome in the market, and can now be found in bargain bins everywhere. Then spend some time getting to know them, but don't make it an inquisition and don't outstay your welcome. Dichotomy. Meaning, noun, a division into two groups or parts or two opposing viewpoints. Examples, there is a sharp dichotomy of opinion on his ability to lead the government. I don't think there's a necessary dichotomy between public defenders and great lawyers. Most major news outlets tried to capture the dichotomy of the speech. Creature comforts. Meaning, material comforts that contribute to physical ease and well-being, such as good food and accommodation. Examples, the hotel room was a bit small, but all the creature comforts were there. You're a long way from home and the only creature comforts you have are a television. I'm not a camper, I truly like my creature comforts too much. Cryptic. Meaning, adjective, mysterious, secret, or obscure in meaning. Examples, Mary's comments were so cryptic that I had no idea what she was saying. When they cross the line, they usually do so in a clever, cryptic fashion. You create a chaotic, cryptic language that's ambiguous that allows you to operate under the radar of the things that would detect you. Superfluous. Meaning, adjective, more than is needed, desired, or required. Examples, the report was marred by a mass of superfluous detail. Samantha had already won the campaign, so her constant flattery of others was superfluous. Much of the school day is wasted on superfluous activities. Discord. Meaning, noun, disagreement or conflict. Examples, there was a tremendous amount of discord among the PDA officers. These people led the charge to misinform the American people and sow discord in our country. Others on Instagram defended them, arguing that the account aimed to sow discord and pillory the pastors. Music to one's ears. Meaning, something that is very pleasant or gratifying to hear or discover. Examples, the sound of the car firing up was like music to his ears. Her voice is music to my ears, and always gets me right here every time she speaks to me. My mom hired students, and their voices were the sweetest music to my ears. Ostracize. Meaning, verb, to exclude from a group. Examples, she was declared a witch and ostracized by the villagers. His colleagues ostracized him after he criticized the company in public. Because of this conformist behavior, they were more or less ostracized socially by their classmates. Rattle one's cage. Meaning, anger or irritate someone. Examples, he knows how to rattle someone's cage and make them rush the bars. He makes a point of taunting his opponents before each match in order to rattle their cage. The audience member asked a number of embarrassing questions about her past in an obvious attempt to rattle her cage. Pensive. Meaning, adjective, deep in thought, reflective, contemplative, introspective. Examples, she became withdrawn and pensive, hardly speaking to anyone. Rossler is pensive as he talks about the man who was part of Malmo's board for 14 years. If I'm in a pensive mood, I would maybe gravitate to a Buddha figure, like that weathered Buddha there. Make one's blood boil. Meaning, infuriate someone, to make someone extremely angry. Examples, it made her blood boil every time he came near. When I hear stories of cruelty to animals, it makes my blood boil. It just makes my blood boil to think of the amount of food that gets wasted around here. Tacit. Meaning, adjective, understood or implied but not specifically expressed. Examples, your silence may be taken to mean tacit agreement. Magic requires tacit cooperation of the audience with the magician. While they got a frosty public response, officials say the private message was a tacit green light. Down in the dumps. Meaning, discouraged, depressed, or sad. Examples, she's been down in the dumps ever since she lost the match. Molly's been moping around all week, and I have no idea why she's so down in the dumps. Rob has been down in the dumps ever since Gloria broke up with him. Salient. Meaning, adjective, the most noticeable, important, prominent, or conspicuous. Examples, the most salient feature of Mary's appearance is her purple hair. She began to summarize the salient features/points of the proposal. The article presented the salient facts of the dispute clearly and concisely. One's cup of tea meaning, something one prefers, desires, enjoys, or cares about. Examples, I invited you because I thought long-distance cycling was your cup of tea. When I found out that reading wasn't his cup of tea, I knew that there wasn't much of a relationship in store between us. A. Do you like the TV show Lost? B. No, it's not my cup of tea. Placid. Meaning, adjective, tranquil, peaceful, calm. Examples, my dog has a very placid temperament. She does not get upset easily. Things are going to get calmer, more stable, more placid, and predictable in the coming year. Viewed at a microscopic scale, water no longer seems smooth and placid. Slap in the face. Meaning, an action or remark which insults and upsets you. Examples, his remarks are a slap in the face for the local community. The union leader described the payouts to both bosses as a slap in the face for all the hard-working staff who now find themselves out of work. They promoted a colleague who had been with the company for less time than Paula, and it was a real slap in the face for her. Inane. Meaning, lacking sense or meaning, silly, empty, insubstantial. Examples, Grassley, who looks and sounds like white male privilege personified, constantly interrupting a woman for somewhat inane reasons. We saw their fawning, elementary and sometimes inane questions during those hearings. That was possibly the most inane greeting in the history of American-Iranian relations. Pervasive. Meaning, spreading widely throughout an area or a group of people. Examples, reforms are being undermined by the all-pervasive corruption in the country. The influence of Freud is pervasive in her books. Coordination failures are pervasive in financial markets and institutions. Lose one's touch. Meaning, no longer be able to do or handle something skillfully. Examples, I used to make beautiful cakes but I seem to have lost my touch. Dad had a real knack for letting someone down gently, but he's lost his touch. You only beat me once in the last 5 games. You're not losing your touch, are you? Petty. Meaning, of little importance, trivial. Examples, I'm not interested in their petty squabbles. Prisoners complain that they are subjected to too many petty rules and restrictions. Village life is full of gossip and petty jealousies. A chapter of accidents. Meaning, a series of unfortunate events. Examples, the whole affair has been a chapter of accidents from start to finish. Despite all of our planning, the birthday party was a chapter of accidents. The reorganization of the company has been a chapter of accidents. Facetious. Meaning, treating serious issues with deliberately inappropriate humor, flippant. Examples, the song is a facetious comment on this act. When I said that I agreed with the president's policies, I was just being facetious. The argument about fishermen is facetious and has no factual basis. not to see the wood for the trees. Meaning, cannot see, understand, or focus on a situation in its entirety due to being preoccupied with minor details. Examples: the information presented in this textbook is so disorganized that I can't see the wood for the trees. The politician's opponents claimed that she couldn't see the forest for the trees, because she spent so much time trying to solve minor problems. He often helped those who could not see the wood for the trees reach the correct decision. Staid. Meaning, adjective, sedate, serious, self-restrained, respectable, and unadventurous. Examples: the staid butler never changed his expression no matter what happened. For a time, the promised bonuses injected a dash of Oprah-style giveaway excitement into the normally staid tax debate. I was probably the oldest and staidest person present, but by no means the unhappiest. Beyond one's wildest dreams. Meaning, bigger or better than could be reasonably expected. Examples: stockbrokers command salaries beyond the wildest dreams of most workers. Living in Paris was beyond my wildest dreams when I was a broke college student. He was being paid a salary beyond most people's wildest dreams. Sedentary. Meaning, requiring sitting or little activity, inactive. Examples: fast food and sedentary lifestyles are major factors in the obesity problem in the US. The authors add that not all time spent sedentary is necessarily bad for the brain. But all of the athletes' heart rates were much lower than is typical for sedentary people. Conventional wisdom. Meaning, noun, a generally accepted theory or belief. Examples: this, of course, goes against the conventional wisdom. Conventional wisdom has it that a book should never be judged by its cover. Conventional wisdom in Hollywood says that a movie can't succeed unless it stars a famous actor or actress. Serendipity. Meaning, the occurrence and development of events by chance in beneficial way. Examples: it was a bumpy path, with progress both by design and serendipity. In an amazing bit of serendipity, penniless Mark found a $50 bill on the back seat of the bus. He and Sarah Brown, also a geologist and CO author, and his wife, found their evidence by serendipity. A case in point. Meaning, an instance or example that illustrates what is being discussed. Examples: supermarkets often charge too much for goods. Bananas are a case in point. Many of the students are from Latin America. Carlos is a case in point, he's from Colombia. Meeting the needs of future generations may need action now. Protecting the environment is a case in point. Diligent. Meaning, having or showing care and conscientiousness in one's work or duties. Examples: their lawyer was extremely diligent in preparing their case. As a result of their diligent research, the scientists were able to find a cure for the disease. They made diligent efforts to carry out their programs. Butter up. Meaning, to praise or flatter someone to make him or her more receptive or willing. Examples: my coworker, hoping for a raise, is always buttering up the boss. I tried to butter up my father by mowing the lawn before I asked to borrow the car. At least butter me up before you ask for money. Tempting fate, meaning, to take a severe risk. Examples: it's tempting fate to start up that mountain so late in the day. You're really tempting fate by not taking your car in for service when all these dashboard lights are on. I'd love to have gone and got my teeth sorted, but, in my eyes, it's been tempting fate. Stick one's neck out. Meaning, risk incurring criticism or anger by acting or speaking boldly. Examples: look, I'm sticking my neck out for you here. I could get fired if they find out what we're up to. When things got really tough, I did think of chickening out. But then I'd think, I'm a giraffe. I've got to keep sticking my neck out. The only reason I'm sticking my neck out for you is that you were there when it mattered. Exempt. Meaning, to free from an obligation or liability imposed on others. Examples: small businesses have been exempted from the tax increase. Some degree courses exempt you from certain professional exams. Local drivers are exempted from paying the tolls. Savor. Meaning, to enjoy food or an experience slowly, in order to appreciate it as much as possible. Examples: he wanted to savor his time with Henrietta and their grown children. I sipped my coffee, savoring every mouthful. Bill savored the view as he cruised along the coastline. On thin ice. Meaning, in a precarious or risky situation. Examples: status quo would leave Canadians on thin ice again. He kept reminding traders that the currency is treading on thin ice. Unless we get the confirmation, we are still skating on thin ice. Adverse. Meaning, preventing success or development, harmful, unfavorable. Examples: taxes are having an adverse effect on production. The match has been cancelled because of adverse weather conditions. They received a lot of adverse publicity/criticism about the changes. Cross the bridge when you come to it. Meaning, to delay worrying about something that might happen until it actually does happen. Examples: don't borrow trouble, and don't cross that bridge until you come to it. Don't cross a bridge till you come to it. I learned that in the war. In the present circumstance, a doubt concerning his ability to fight could get him killed. And if he had to kill, what then? Cross that bridge when you come to it, he thought, which could be any minute now. Rife. Meaning, adjective, especially of something undesirable, of common occurrence, widespread. Examples: dysentery and malaria are rife in the refugee camps. Graft and corruption were rife in city government. The office is rife with rumors that many of us will be fired. Drop a clangor. Meaning, to make a very embarrassing mistake, to accidentally do something embarrassing. Examples: Conservatives in East Lee dropped a clangor in their election leaflet by admitting that few people will be voting for them tomorrow. The presenter dropped a clangor on this morning's show by referring to the singer's long-haired son as a girl. I dropped a real clangor when I mentioned the party. He hadn't been invited. Stringent. Meaning, of regulations, requirements, or conditions, strict, precise, and exacting. Examples: we need to introduce more stringent security measures such as identity cards. The most stringent laws in the world are useless unless there is the will to enforce them. Stringent safety regulations were introduced after the accident. More by luck than judgment. Meaning, by chance and not because of any special skill. Examples: more by luck than judgment he managed to land the damaged plane on the jungle airstrip. The casual observer might be forgiven for thinking that the occasional brief successes have occurred more by luck than judgment. Britain often owed her survival and the relative stability of the home front more to luck than judgment. Predilection. Meaning, a preference or inclination for something. Examples: James has a predilection for eating toad in the hole with tomato ketchup. Naturally, his decision reflects political and other considerations including personal biases and predilections. This elite combined scientific interests with antiquarian predilection for collecting specimens and objects. Home free. Meaning, assured of success because the most difficult part is over. Examples: oh, we're home free now, that was the hardest part of the repair. I'm so relieved that the scans are clean. After months of treatment, I'm finally home free. Hold on. We aren't home free yet, the car is still there. Quaint. Meaning, adjective, charmingly old-fashioned. Examples: Mary was delighted by the quaint bonnets she saw in Romania. In Spain, we visited a cobblestone plaza with quaint little cafes around its perimeter. The quaint bed and breakfasts of yesterday have been replaced by upscale hotels and inns, and the village has become a mecca for top chefs. Fat chance. Meaning, very little or no possibility. Examples: A. Maybe the teacher will let us out of class early today. B. Ha. Fat chance. There's fat chance the course of true love will run smoothly. He wants to be a basketball star, but at 5'6" there's fat chance of that happening. Frugal. Meaning, adjective, 1. Sparing or economical as regards money or food. 2. Simple and plain and costing little. Examples: I'm a bit too frugal to splash out on designer clothes. While some companies are moving to hike prices in low inflation Japan due to rising labor and shipping costs, they risk being shunned by frugal consumers. He plans to finance his travels with savings, credit cards, and frugal living on the road while posting it all on his social media accounts. Same difference. Meaning, said when you agree that what you said was not exactly correct, but you think the difference is not important. Examples: A. I told you to wear a white shirt, not a cream-colored one. B. White, cream same difference. A. Do you want to go get the food, or will I? B. Same difference. She's divorced from her husband. No, she's not, she's only separated. Same difference. Emulation. Meaning, noun, effort to match or surpass a person or achievement, typically by imitation. Examples: their success is inspiring emulation from others. And elements of his story are still worthy of emulation and admiration. He knew how to encourage other rabbits and to fill them with a spirit of emulation. That's all we need. Meaning, said ironically to indicate that this is something one doesn't want or need at all. Examples: Sally, Bill, the check you wrote to the Internal Revenue Service was returned. There's no more money in the bank. Bill, that's all we need. Jane, the dog died and the basement is just starting to flood. Fred, that's all we need. Bob, on top of having too many bills to pay, now I have car trouble. Mary, that's just what you need. Drastic. Meaning, especially of actions, severe and sudden or having very noticeable effects. Examples: many employees have had to take drastic cuts in pay. In the desert there's a drastic change in temperature from day to night. He is not under pressure from his own electorate to do anything drastic. The company is taking drastic action to reduce its debt by $14.3 billion. The plot thickens. Meaning, used when a situation is becoming more and more complicated and puzzling. Examples: the plot thickens as Debbie finds out from Simon that the plan to plant drugs at Joe's party failed. The plot thickens when Von Enck himself disappears and it's up to Wallander to find him. Now the plot thickens, as police have opened a line of inquiry into the governor's whereabouts on the date of the incident. Candid. Meaning, adjective, openly straightforward and direct without reserve or secretiveness. Too informal or natural, especially caught off guard or unprepared. Examples: I'm 44, and, to be candid with you, I never thought that I would be the fourth youngest person running in this race. People are trying to seem candid by posting mirror selfies and photos lounging around. She addressed the backlash in Candid Instagram live videos and recently called it a learning experience. Get a life. Meaning, 1. To start being productive in one's own life, to act independently and responsibly. 2. To do things one finds enjoyable and fulfilling. Examples: you can't just live in mom and dad's basement playing video games forever, you need to go out and get a life. After waking up with another raging hangover, I needed to grow up and start getting a life. College isn't just about studying and getting good grades. You need to get a life, go to parties, meet new people, join a sports club, anything. Bewildered. Meaning, perplexed and confused. Examples: she was bewildered by his sudden change of mood. He seemed weary and bewildered when a car pulled up alongside him. They were also bewildered by their son imploring his dad to help other hockey players when he was alone on the transport bus. Fair enough. Meaning, used to admit that something is reasonable or acceptable. Examples: the managers want to cut costs, which is fair enough, but they're sacrificing their employees to do it. A. I think this part of the story would work better with less exposition. B. Fair enough. I'll try to pare it back a bit. Letting the students work the machines on their own is fair enough, but they do need some training first. Lenient. Meaning, characterized by tolerance and mercy. Examples: he was fined 500 Swiss francs, or about $500, a relatively lenient punishment. The case drew national attention and the initial charge was criticized as being lenient. Judge Jackson tends to be relatively lenient on convicted criminals who appear before her. Draw on. Meaning, 1. To use something that you have gradually gained or saved. 2. To breathe in smoke from a cigarette. 3. To take money from a bank account by writing a check. Examples: this essay draws on the expertise of many famous academics and writers. Your body draws on its reserves of fat during the times when you are fasting. He drew on his cigarette and then coughed loudly. He paid with a check drawn on his company's account. Draw back. Meaning, to move away from, SB, or, STH. 2. To abandon a plan or course of action. Examples: the postman drew back when the ferocious dog began to bark. She leaned forward to touch the dog but quickly drew back when she saw its teeth. The government has drawn back from attempting reform. The troops were so outnumbered that they were forced to draw back. Draw in. Meaning, of successive days, become shorter because of the changing seasons. Examples: now it is September. You might have noticed that the nights are drawing in. Always endless thoughts of season after season, of nights drawing in and out, each chasing the other in continuous movement. Her time for walking was limited, especially with nights drawing in, so she spent her time in the inn, poring over poetry and reading the research. Draw up. Meaning, 1. To prepare and write something such as a document or plan. 2. If a vehicle draws up, it arrives at a place and stops. 3. Draw up a chair to move your chair so that you are sitting closer to someone or something. Examples: guidelines have been drawn up for dealing with emergencies. Work out what are your priority shots and draw up a schedule for each shooting day. The police car drew up alongside the speeding car and told them to pull over. Well then, draw up a seat and tell us what you think. Time will tell. Meaning, sooner or later something will become known or be revealed. Examples: who knows what the future will bring? Only time will tell. It's hard to predict how this law will really impact people's lives. Only time will tell. Time will tell whether the film is truly considered a success. Some flops go on to become cult favorites. Menace. Meaning, noun and verb, a person or thing that is likely to cause harm, a threat or danger. Peril, hazard, jeopardy. Examples: a new initiative aimed at beating the menace of drugs. Africa's elephants are still menaced by poaching. Drunk drivers are a menace to everyone. Dogs running loose are a public menace. Hurricane Hugo menaced the eastern coast for a week. In two minds. Meaning, to experience indecision and / or conflicting emotions. Examples: I was in two minds about leaving London. My friends were there, but at the same time I really wanted to work abroad. The committee is currently in two minds about a suitable punishment, but hopefully they will reach a decision in the morning. Novice. Meaning, someone new to a field or activity. Examples: it's a difficult task for anyone, let alone a novice to the restaurant business. Which manager, the acclaimed genius or the popular novice, will handle it better? Zelensky, 41, is a political novice who is promising to build a new country, free of graft and the old, corrupt political establishment. Alluring. Meaning, adjective, powerfully and mysteriously attractive or fascinating, seductive. Examples: I didn't find the prospect of a house with no electricity very alluring. She was wearing a most alluring dress at Sam's dinner party. His technique was never perfect, but that was part of the impetuous, wild quality that made him so alluring to audiences around the world. Pour oil on troubled waters. Meaning, to calm or settle a tense situation. Examples: he is an extremely experienced politician, who some diplomats believe may be able to pour oil on troubled waters. Friends are a blessing. They pour oil on troubled waters, drag you to parties and make you feel loved. The twins are quarreling, so I'd best go pour oil on troubled waters. Scapegoat. Meaning, a person or a thing that is blamed for something that someone else has done. Examples: the captain was made a scapegoat for the team's failure. When things don't go well, people always look for a scapegoat. Politicians have used the financial sector as a scapegoat for the global economic crisis. Muddy the waters. Meaning, to make a situation unnecessarily complicated and less clear. Examples, his suggestions just muddied the waters further, rather than helping the situation. The contradictory statements will serve to further muddy the waters of the investigation. But will her information help Wallander find the kidnappers or just muddy the waters even further? Sedate. Meaning, adjective/noun, calm, dignified, and unhurried. Examples, in the old days, business was carried on at a rather more sedate pace. The fight against a chemical storage site has transformed a normally sedate village into a battleground. She preferred standard ballads and sedate pop tunes to rock music. They planned to sedate the giant mammal with a tranquilizer. Barefaced lies. Meaning, a shameless falsehood. Examples, Bill could tell a barefaced lie with a straight face. My opponent's assertion that I intend to raise the tax rates is baseless, it is nothing but a barefaced lie. Miss Ophelia was so indignant at the barefaced lie, that she caught the child and shook her. Dismay. Meaning, noun/verb, concern and distress caused by something unexpected. Examples, aid workers were said to have been filled with dismay by the appalling conditions that the refugees were living in. The fans watched with dismay as their team lost 40-11. She discovered, to her dismay, that her exam was a whole month earlier than she'd expected. Pittance. Meaning, noun, a very small or inadequate amount of money. Examples, she then betook herself to the business of packing, for which a small quantity of brown paper sufficed, and, having received her small pittance of wages, she returned home. This store was now nearly exhausted, and she had found a milliner who gave her a miserable pittance for toiling with her needle 8 or 10 hours each day. Amelia thinks and racks her brain, to find some means of increasing the small pittance upon which the household is starving. Name of the game. Meaning, the main purpose or most important aspect of a situation. Examples, the name of the game is short-term gain. I hope you boys know that safety compliance is the name of the game around here. We don't tolerate any tomfoolery. Specializing is the name of the game when it comes to winning trophies. Play a waiting game. Meaning, to postpone or delay a decision or course of action so as to first see what might happen or what one's opponent, might do. Examples, the lawyer advised her to play a waiting game and see if her husband would come up with more alimony. The market is rather tumultuous at the moment, so I think we're better off playing the waiting game rather than making any hasty decisions. If Louise really does want to marry Shane at some point, there's only one course for her to follow: back off, cool down and play the waiting game. No strings attached. Meaning, with no special rules, conditions, or limits. Examples, take advantage of our huge summer sale, where you can earn up to $5,000 cash back. No strings attached. I got a loan of $5,000 with no strings attached. They immediately agreed to donate $1,000, no strings attached. Second nature. Meaning, if something is second nature to you, you are so familiar with it that you can do it easily without needing to think very much about it. Examples, I know this data entry process seems complex now, but it'll be second nature after you do it for a few weeks. Don't worry, navigating these winding roads is second nature for me at this point. Altering a breathing pattern can be very difficult since it has been second nature for so long. In the back of one's mind. Meaning, if something is in the back of your mind, you intend to do it, but are not actively thinking about it. Examples, despite my success at work, there's always this worry in the back of my mind that I'm doing something wrong. You don't need to do anything about it now, just keep it in the back of your mind going forward. It's been at the back of my mind to call Jose for several days now, but I haven't got round to it yet. Rule of thumb. Meaning, a broadly accurate guide or principle, based on practice rather than theory. Examples, A useful rule of thumb is that about 10 hours will be needed to analyze each hour of recorded data. A good rule of thumb is that a portion of rice is 2 handfuls. As a rule of thumb, the ice on the lake should be at least 2 inches thick to support one person. Give an edge over. Meaning, give someone/something and the advantage over someone/something. Examples, training can give you the edge over your competitors. In effect, it is what is thrown in with the purchase in the form of qualitative added help, support, or attention that provides peace of mind to the customer and gives us an edge over the competition. Adding the dimension of time to our analysis gives us an edge over the competition. Take a toll on. Meaning, to cause damage or deleterious effects gradually or through constant action or use. Examples, the inclement weather in these parts really takes a toll on the exteriors of the buildings. She just doesn't have her usual quickness. It seems like the long season has taken a toll. Years of smoking and drinking has taken a toll on her health.